The story of mysterious disappearances associated with an ancient ritual. A cold wind blew in from the mountains. Deep in the valley, on the outskirts of town, was an old hut where Martha lived. This woman was known in the city for her knowledge of mysticism and the occult. It wasn't the first time people had disappeared in the town, but no one could figure out what made them disappear without a trace. Martha was sure that it had to do with an ancient ritual that had been used in the area in the past. She decided to help the townspeople and perform a ritual to solve the mystery. Martha invited a group of young people to help her perform the ritual. They gathered in an old cabin where Martha began to perform the ritual. She made a fire and recited prayers in an ancient language. Soon they felt a strange energy filling their bodies. But then something unexpected happened. Martha fell silently to the floor and stopped breathing. The young people were in shock and did not know what to do. They decided to call an ambulance, but when the doctors arrived, Martha was already dead. All attempts to revive her were unsuccessful. The young men were terrified and decided to remove all traces of the ritual so that no one would know what they had performed. But when they left the hut, they found the town deserted. Not a single person was on the streets. They began to go around the houses, but all were empty. They did not know what had happened and tried to find someone. Soon they found a note left by one of the town's residents. It said that the town had abandoned all of its inhabitants and that it had to do with a ritual Martha was performing. It turned out that the ritual had activated an ancient magical force that made all of the town's residents disappear. The young men could not believe what had happened. They were alone in the city and didn't know what to do next. They decided they had to try to solve the mystery of the ritual and figure out how to undo it. They went back to Martha's cabin to find instructions on the ritual and try to undo it. They found an ancient book in her room that had instructions for the ritual. They began to investigate the book and realized that they needed to do the opposite ritual to undo the effect of the first. They decided to do the opposite ritual, but they needed to find all the necessary ingredients and do it in exactly the same place where Martha had done the first ritual. They went in search of the necessary ingredients. Their search led them to an old cemetery that had been used to perform ancient rituals. They found all the ingredients they needed, but then a strange energy overtook them and made them freeze. They heard a quiet rustling sound and noticed shadowy figures approaching them. They realized that it was the spirits who had been summoned by the first ritual. They decided to fight for their lives and began to flee. They fled to Martha's hut and began to perform the opposite ritual. The ritual was difficult, but they were sure they could do it. During the ritual, they felt strange things begin to happen around them. They heard sounds they had never heard before, and they saw shadowy figures that began to disappear before their eyes. Soon the ritual was over, and the young men felt fatigue dumped on them. They opened their eyes and realized that the city was back in place. People began to appear in the streets, and all the inhabitants of the city went back to their normal routine. The young men remained alone in Martha's hut and realized that they had been able to undo the ancient ritual and save the city. They were glad that they had succeeded in defeating evil and bringing peace and tranquility back to the city. But they also realized that they had witnessed something unusual and terrible. They were sure they would never encounter anything like that again. From then on, the young men told their story to anyone who was willing to listen. They became heroes of the city and were recognized for their actions. But they knew that the secrets of ancient rituals could be dangerous and that many secrets could still lurk deep within the forest. The young men decided that they needed to continue their research and study the ancient rituals in order to be prepared for any unforeseen circumstances. They decided that they must be ready to fight what lurks in the darkness of the forest and that they must be prepared for any challenges that might await them in the future. The young men continued to explore the ancient ritual, delving deeper and deeper and deeper into its mysteries. But as time passed, they noticed that strange things began to happen in their lives. They began to dream dreams with dark forces that were trying to take their soul. The young men tried to stop their explorations, but it was too late. They found themselves entangled in a web of ancient secrets that threatened their lives. They realized that the further they progressed, the more they put themselves in danger. Eventually, one of them disappeared. His friends never found him, but they knew that he had died as a result of his research. They were shocked by this loss and realized that they should not have put themselves in such danger. But it was too late. Next was the second of the group, who also disappeared. In the end, there was only one young man left who knew he had to stop, but could not stop his research. He was obsessed with learning more about the ancient ritual and was not afraid of the danger. Of course, he too disappeared, leaving only the records of his research. No one knew what happened to him, but everyone knew that he died as a result of his obsession with the mysteries of ancient rituals. Thus ended their story of the mysterious disappearance of humans and the ancient ritual associated with it. Their lives became a tragic sacrifice of their curiosity, their research leading to their own demise.